Hello and welcome back to Hawthorne Law TV. In the last video, we started a discussion of why it's important to consider forming a corporation for your online business entity or for your bricks and mortar business entity. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the differences between C corporations and S corporations. So if you do decide that you want to incorporate, you need to be aware of the two because there are some significant differences from a tax standpoint for your business. Now, obviously, both C corporations and S corporations are corporate entities, and they're both going to afford you the limited liability that you get from forming a corporation, but there are some differences in the eyes of the IRS. Now, both C corporations and S corporations will be completely different entities from a legal standpoint than you personally as a shareholder, and both C corporations and S corporations will file their own separate tax returns, but a C corporation is also going to pay its own income taxes on the net profit of the corporation, whereas a S corporation will file what's called an information return, which is an 1120S, and the net profit from the business is going to actually flow through to the shareholders with a form called a K1 that then gets reported on the shareholders' individual tax returns in proportion to their ownership interest in the business. Okay, so the main advantages to operating as an S corporation versus a C corporation or vice versa are going to be the tax drawbacks and advantages of each depending on your own unique situation. All right, so when talking about an S corporation versus a C corporation, you need to have a certain understanding of the definitions of each. First, an S corporation is essentially a domestic corporation that has elected to avoid double taxation once to the corporation and again to the shareholders by filing an election with the IRS. There are time deadlines to do this, so you need to be aware of that. In an S corporation, profits pass through to the shareholders, and are only taxed at the individual level. A C corporation, on the other hand, is kind of the default corporation. If you don't elect S corporation status, you're going to be a C corporation. It's any corporation that is taxed separately from its owners. Most major companies, and many smaller companies as well, are treated as C corporations for the U.S. federal income tax purposes. Since a C corporation pays its own taxes on net profits, even the profits that are distributed as dividends, so that's why you may have heard of something called double taxation. It's because the dividends are taxed once at the corporate level, and then they'll be taxed again on the personal level when you receive the dividend. You must consider the corporate tax rate versus your own personal income tax rate when deciding whether or not it makes sense to be an S corporation or a C corporation. So in certain situations, it can actually be more beneficial to be a C corporation because if you take all the money out as salary from the corporation, then you're actually going to pay less overall tax than you would if you filed as a C corp or as an S corporation. So another thing you need to think about is an S corporation flows through both income and losses to the personal shareholder, which means that you can take those losses in the early stages of your business and offset them against income that you might have from other sources, whereas a C corporation does not pass through the losses to the shareholder. Another big advantage of a C corporation versus an S corporation is that an S corporation is limited to 100 shareholders. So if you are forming a business that you think might become something like the next Twitter or Facebook or something like that, and you think someday you might want to go public, then a C corporation is going to be a better option for you because you're going to have more of an opportunity to lure investors. Now, that's not to say if you take your S election status, you can at some point later on you can switch that back to be a C corporation. So a lot of businesses will start out as an S corporation and then will switch over to a C corporation later. And some may never switch at all. That's just they may decide to be an S corporation and it might be a small business in perpetuity. So it just kind of depends on what your personal goals are with the business. As always, if you have any questions about whether or not you should form a C corporation or an S corporation or some other business entity entirely, we would encourage you to talk to an attorney. And we do offer strategy sessions, so you can feel free to give us a call up and we can be happy to talk to you about these decisions. So I want to thank you for watching today. If you have any other questions about what type of business entity you need to form for your online or bricks and mortar business, or if you'd like to know more about how to protect your brand online, you can check us out at www.hawthornelaw.net. Once again, my name is Jim Hart, and I want to thank you for watching today.